Hi, I'm Gigi Duban, and on this episode of Alabama Inc., we look into the federal farm bill. Annie D of the huge Dee River Ranch tells us whether she loves it or hates it. Pat Duggins gets back on the grid with Mark Crosswhite, CEO of Alabama Power. And ever wonder why milk and bread are on opposite ends of the store? Joe Calamuza is back to talk with Josh about all the ways companies try to get in your brain. That's what's coming up on Alabama Inc. The 2014 federal farm bill was big news for farmers. One of the things it tried to do was to make farming a little less risky for the American farmer, say if weather wipes out crops. To find out how this plays out in Alabama, we went to Dee River Ranch, a 10,000-acre farm near the Mississippi-Alabama line. We caught up with Annie D, who runs the farm with her family. If you dread buying a car, imagine buying and selling cattle. Fortunately for Annie D, this isn't her first rodeo. During a sale, she doesn't shy away from men who might seem intimidating. She's been at this for years. Dee River Ranch is a sprawling farm in Aliceville where you'll find corn, soybeans, wheat.
When did you drive your first pickup truck ever?
I was
How old were you?
15, and the pickup truck had a clutch.
Nice.
And my dad said, I'll teach you how to drive that. And we went out, and I was so nervous. My leg was shaking. The whole truck was shaking. Learned to drive the stick shift at 15.
Where are you, like, in birth order with your
Number
11?
6.
Right in the middle.
Middle child syndrome.
The Farm Bill comes up every 5 years. This last go-round was 2 years overdue. Really, it doesn't just affect farmers. A big part of the bill deals with food stamps. But what affects farmers like Annie most are things like help from the government in the case of a bad year.
And so if the farm bill hadn't come through, how would it have affected you?
Well, it makes it hard to make decisions to financially know what to do, what crops to plant, whether we want to plant corn or beans or wheat, or how much we're going to plant. So it's really been helpful that it's come through, and it's given us a chance to make our plans for we've already got our seed purchase for corn and wheat.
The federal farm bill changed a few things for farmers. For one thing, it killed off direct payments. This basically said the government paid farmers subsidies whether or not the farmers lost money.
The direct payments, I imagine you benefited tremendously from something like that, growing crops like soybeans and corn.
Well, that probably helped the price. That helped us not need as high a price when we had the direct payments. Now I think more the market, it's going to be driven more by market price.
Do you think at the consumer level, like when people go to the grocery store, do you think that we're going to see prices go up?
It could drive the price up, since the farmers will have to, we don't have the direct payments, the farmers will have to make more on the sale of the crops themselves. So it could directly send the price of food up. Sometimes we get unintended consequences over things like we don't want to pay the farmer to raise the food. Sometimes we hadn't calculated what's going to happen next, but it probably will drive the price of most food up.
How many acres is your farm?
10,000.
10,000 acres?
10,000 acres.
I think the biggest state park in Alabama is about 10. It's actually a little less than 10,000 acres. That's the biggest state park, it's Oak Mountain.
This is like a park.
Annie says what a lot of people don't realize is that farming isn't cheap. There are a lot of resources that go into raising cattle. A lot goes into growing things like wheat or corn. You've got the cost of labor, machinery, buildings.
That's what we were talking about with the reservoir and this. Yeah, you get up in the millions. It's way past hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
And it adds up. We have plans to build 3 more bins, but it's presently on hold till we can make some crops and pay for some of the things that we've already purchased. I have a friend that said, if I had all the money I've been spending, I wouldn't need to farm. But we've spent a lot of money in the last couple of years with grain storage and irrigation, and we're hoping for a big payoff.
The other big thing was better crop insurance. It gives farmers a bigger safety net in case they have a bad year.
The idea behind that seems like is just to keep the extremes, the price extremes from hurting you.
That's right. If we didn't have some kind of a safety net in place and we have the price of crops falls really low, we could be out of business in just 1 year if we don't have some kind of assistance. It won't make us rich, it will help us to go on to the next year and try to farm again.
In the meantime, life goes on at Annie D's farm. The only difference now is she can sleep with a little more peace of mind. With the new farm bill, being a farmer is a little less risky. Coming up next on Alabama Inc.
I thought, I'm going to be general counsel of Alabama Power until I'm 65. Several of those turns later, I'm sitting here as CEO.
A lot of people we interview for Alabama Inc. who start off as lawyers wind up in the front office. That was the case with Mark Crosswhite. He's the head of Alabama Power. Here's how he got from here to there. You just took over for Charles McCrary, and I'm wondering, was there anything in the CEO handbook that they gave you that, once you finally got in the chair, it's kind of like, there's no way to explain it until you're actually in it in terms of like the challenges or the hassles or anything like that?
Sure, I've been looking for the handbook, and it hasn't surfaced yet. So if Charles is watching, maybe he'll send it to me.
So your first job, well, you mentioned working in the chief counsel's office, and then you were external relations, and then you wound up, being in the front office. Being in external relations, how was that kind of a shift for you in terms of like, the responsibilities, but also kind of like the hassles that you had to deal with?
Well, external affairs has things like public relations, community activities, economic development. Has those kind of activities in it. Still got a legal flavor to it, regulatory flavor, but it's got a lot of other things. Well, Charles asked me to do that, or I guess ask is charitable, but he pointed me in that direction, and it was a surprise. I didn't see that coming, but it was great. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It exposed me to some things that I had never, ever seen about the company and got me involved in activities I'd never been involved in. So it was really good. I've had several of those kind of developments in my career, what I'll call left-hand turns. As I've spoken to younger folks here at the company or out in the community, I encourage them, look for these left-hand turns, as I call them, things you don't see coming. Because I was early 40s and I thought, I'm going to be general counsel of Alabama Power until I'm 65 and ride off to the sunset. Several of those turns later, I'm sitting here as CEO, and I want the young people here at our company not to shy away from some of these left-hand turns. They can be some of the most rewarding things you'll ever experience. This is the Alabama Control Center. So this is really the nerve center for the Alabama Power Electric System. This is where this team of people here are monitoring how the power is flowing across our system. If they see an issue, they can react to it. If they see a place that we need more generation to come online, they can call and get that done. And so this is really the brain of Alabama Power. This is where it all happens.
But we have a number of different control consoles all around us. But apparently it was after a major blackout that somebody said, let's have the situational map up there as far as like giving the big picture to everybody. Explain how that works.
Sure, there was a blackout in the Northeast, not here, just to be real clear, but there was a blackout in a part of the country. And we have all this data around that each of these different desks that are scattered around that you might be able to see are monitoring a specific region or a specific type of information in order to increase the situational awareness so that the managers can look up at one screen and get a snapshot of what's going on across the entire system. We developed this.
Renewable energy is something else that you're interested in, and it's kind of had a bumpy road here in Alabama. How difficult is that in terms of like, because we're talking about like getting away from coal, trying to come up with different types of energy. How many bumps in the road have you had with that?
We support renewable energy, but we also support coal, natural gas, nuclear. I mean, our view is, or my view is that we will be best served by having a broad, diverse mix of energy sources available to serve us. When we have a diverse mix, we can take advantage of it. If the price of natural gas goes down, we can burn more natural gas. If the price of coal goes down, we can burn more coal. So, we think the best way to keep our prices low would be to have a good, diverse mix of energy sources. Now, renewable energy specifically, Alabama Power was really founded on renewable energy, hydro, all the dams that we have across the states. I mean, that is our birth. And so I view us as a renewable energy company. That's where we came from. So we certainly support it where it makes sense. Now, hydro in Alabama makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of water, and it was harnessed for our good over the past 100 years. Unfortunately, some of the other types of renewable energy don't have quite the same effectiveness in Alabama. So wind, for example, the wind blows harder and more constantly in places out in the Midwest and out in the Plains state. Those places make a lot of sense for us to have wind energy. It's not quite effective here in Alabama yet. Maybe someday, but it's not quite here yet. Solar power, similar thing. The most effective place for solar facilities are going to be in the deserts in California and the Southwest. We're seeing solar make inroads, and ultimately it may be very cost effective, just not quite there yet in our part of the world. So that's the reason we're currently buying electricity generated by windmills, having it here. We're exploring solar. We've got, you can't see them from where we're sitting, but we actually have solar panels on the top of our building over here. So we're trying to find ways to build in renewables into our portfolio of energy sources. What I would say is that if viewers would like to support renewable energy, we actually have a rate right now where you can buy from Alabama Power renewable energy. And if that's something that's important to you, if it's something that you want to do, there's a means for you to do that today. Now, it costs a little bit more, but if that's something that you want to support, if you want to support renewables, you can do that. I'm actually a customer who's on that rate, so I know it's out there.
You mentioned earlier that you were a history major, and you told somebody one time that if there was one person in history that you'd really like to meet, it would be Julius Caesar. Why him?
Great question. And it may, it's probably more of the type of history I've always been fascinated by. Ever since I was a little kid, I've been fascinated with ancient Rome. And so I would read biographies of Caesar, or Julius Caesar, and Augustus Caesar, and I'm really sounding like a history geek now, but as I loved reading Roman history. And so there's no more famous Roman than Julius Caesar. So that would really be my desire to meet him.
So nobody on staff said, the new boss wants to meet an emperor? Nobody.
I haven't heard that analogy yet, but I did see him working on a crown of laurel leaves for me out here just recently.
Sir, as we wrap up, silly question here. When the power goes off at your house, do the repair trucks get there faster?
No, they do not. I'm last on the list, I think. At least my wife does.
Thank you so much for taking the time.
Absolutely. Thank you, Pat.
Coming up next on Alabama Inc.
They'll use the opposite of new, which is things are running out.
You need this car. There are only 2,000 or 3,000 more at the plant.
Each week on Alabama Inc., we bring in one of our show experts to talk with correspondent Josh Sneed. Our expert gives Josh a top 5 list, and Josh takes it from there. This time, Joe Calamusa from the University of Alabama Business School is back for more. He lays out all the ways companies can outsmart you, the consumer.
If you're watching this from the comfort of a Snuggie, then you're already an expert on how companies can make you buy things you really don't need. For the rest of you, Joe Calamusa is going to give us some insight on how companies try to influence us, unlike the good people at Subway that offer a quality product at a reasonable price. Subway. No, they don't really sponsor us. All right, Joe, welcome back.
Glad to be here.
All right, we actually got a letter from Taylor Hicks after
Did we?
your first visit.
Okay,
Yeah.
you
He just
didn't
said,
get my
"Woo!"
address, did you?
Yeah, so I don't know if he was angry or
He's got plenty of free time to come find me.
again. All right, good. I like it. All right, so what are we doing today?
Today we're going to do 5 ways that companies influence you.
Okay. All right. So that's like sneaky ways and stuff like
Well,
this.
it could be, but in most cases it's just how they're trying to influence you so that you'll buy their products.
Right. And you're a marketing guy, so you can give us some secrets.
I'm a marketing guy, yes.
Okay.
But this is free television, so you won't get the best secrets.
Okay. All right. All right. Number 5. Start us off.
Number 5 is they're really good at finding you now. With digital media and web marketing, they're targeting you personally. They know who you are and what your history is and what your needs are. So it's different than it used to be.
I think it's because every time I buy something, whether it's a stick of gum or a car, you have to give everybody you have your phone number, your address, your email address, where you're going to be for the next 5 years.
And the biggest piece of it is now that when you search anything online, that search follows you no matter where you go. So if you're interested in going on vacation and you're looking at travel sites, everywhere you go after that, those travel sites now are following you.
Yes.
So they know who you are. They're trying to get you to pull that trigger on that travel that you didn't buy when you were on the site
sure
first
you
time.
don't want to go to
Exactly
Jamaica?
right. And so they're really, really good at finding you and tracking you, much better than they were in previous generations before web-based advertising.
That's not creepy. All right. Number 4.
Number 4 is more old school, but number 4 is they like to launch new things. Everything is new. Everything is a launch.
Because people want the newest
Because people
stuff.
want the new. There are so many consumers who are on the forefront of technology and the forefront of products, and they'll wait in line to get things, and they want to make sure that the first to buy something on their block or the first to buy something in their family. So companies constantly put new on things to get them to purchase it.
And is that mostly with just young people? Because a lot of old people, they'll stay with old phones with 3 buttons on them.
It is. It's with the millennial generation, the younger generation specifically, is focused on having technology first, especially among their friends and colleagues. So yes, it's becoming more popular. That launch dates, product launch dates are like movie launch dates now.
Right. Yeah.
And it's becoming people waiting in line just to make sure they're the first to have that phone or the first to have that piece of technology.
Okay. All right. Number 3.
And number 3 is they'll use your friends to influence you. So
they use your own friends against you.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it kind of goes with number 4 in that they're going to make sure that if the people around you in your social set or even in your geography, if a product is popular in that area, they're going to make sure you know that product is popular in that area and you're falling behind if you don't have it.
Wow. How do they do that? How do they find out what's popular?
The biggest way to do it now is through social media. So they'll take, people think that companies use social media to deliver information, and they do, but they use social media to receive it as well. So they know what's going on in each marketplace.
They know how long you spent on a website,
Yes,
like
and they're
whether
gonna
you hovered your mouse over something.
Exactly right, and if you made any comments on social media platforms, they can take that and reverse it around. It's something as simple as when you go online to buy something, you'll have reviews of that product, star reviews of that product. That's them influencing you. Those reviews are chosen. They're not every review, and so that's them influencing you to make that purchase.
So people who jumped on Twitter thinking that the world is now going to be able to hear all their hilarious jokes, really is they're just giving all their information away to market.
Everybody is not laughing at their jokes, and they're giving away all their information to marketing companies, for sure.
Good point. I think you just broke a lot of people's hearts right just now.
Well, I'm sorry. The truth hurts sometimes.
Yeah. All right, so number 2?
Number 2, and kind of goes with 4. Number 2 is they'll use the opposite of new, which is things are running out. The supply is running out. You've got to act now. That's old school too, but it still happens a lot. Whereas there's a certain model that you can get. There's only a few of them left.
I feel like that's like the TV shopping, like the
It
BBC.
is.
That's their wheelhouse, isn't it?
It is, but it's used in other areas as well. And it's about getting consumers react to urgency. So if they feel like they've got to make a decision now, oftentimes that guilt of what's going to happen if I don't get this when it's gone. And that happens in every aspect of sales and marketing, but urgency and the product is running out, supply is running out, only a few seats left, those kind of things.
You need
still
this
work.
car. There are only 2,000 or 3,000 more at the plant.
We'll make some more if you buy those. But it's old school, but it still works. People react to it psychologically, so I've got to get this before it's gone.
Right. All right, number one, what do we got?
Number one is they're going to warm you up by getting you to try the product.
Okay.
If they can get you to try a lower end, lesser expensive product, you do become, and you're satisfied with it, you do become addicted to that brand, addicted to that product, so you can buy more.
Yeah.
It used to be trying to sell you a warranty or an insurance policy on something you bought, but now it's if you buy, most people who have a Mac, Apple Mac for example, the Mac computer wasn't their first purchase. They bought a lesser expensive product in the Apple line, an iPod, an iPad, or an iPhone, and they worked their way up to the $2,000 Mac.
Yeah.
And Apple got you by getting you to buy $100 something.
Yeah.
So they're going to get you to try a product, even if it's free trial sometimes.
Yeah.
And they know if the product's good, that you'll buy that product again, and you'll buy more expensive versions of the product. They call it cross-selling and upselling, and it's done all the time to get consumers to ramp up.
That's how Netflix got me.
And they get you, and that's how they do it. And if the product is good, it's even more effective.
Yeah. All right, well, I appreciate you coming in again. I think you caught us all up. Now we know kind of some marketing secrets. So just stay off the internet.
That would help you, and except you would be a hermit if you did that.
Well, thanks anyway.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
All right.
That's our show for this week. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter, keep up with the stories we're working on, and tell us what you think. I'm Gigi Duban, and we'll see you next time on Alabama Ink.